Last time, I told you how my son and his wife brought me to the airport with promises of a family trip. How I sat on that cold bench, clutching my bag, waiting for them to come back. And how, after hours of unanswered calls and empty excuses I told myself, the truth finally broke me. They had left me without money, without a ticket, without even a kind word of goodbye. Imagine standing in a place filled with thousands of people and realizing not one of them is there for you. Imagine feeling the weight of your own son's betrayal pressing down on your chest so heavily you can barely breathe. That was me. A mother abandoned not in secret, but in the middle of a crowded airport where the world kept spinning as though nothing had happened. At first, I didn't know what to do. I sat frozen, staring at the arrivals board, the departures flashing like cruel reminders that everyone else had somewhere to go. Everyone but me. My hands trembled as I gripped my phone, dialing his number again and again. Always voicemail. I whispered into the phone, though I knew he couldn't hear me. Why, my son? Why would you do this to me? Eventually, my battery began to die. The thought of being cut off completely sent a new wave of panic through me. I stood, wobbling slightly, and approached an airport employee at the desk. My voice quivered as I asked if she had seen my son, if perhaps they had gone through already. She glanced at me quickly, her smile professional, her tone dismissive. "I'm sorry, ma'am, I can't help with that. You'll need to contact them directly." As if I hadn't been trying. I shuffled away, my legs weak. The airport felt enormous, like a city I had no map for. I looked at the restaurants, the kiosks selling souvenirs, the families laughing together, and a deep shame rose inside me. I didn't belong here. Not anymore. I tried to calm myself. Just sit, just wait, I told myself. Maybe this was all some cruel mistake. Maybe they'd circle back for me. But the hours ticked by. The benches grew harder. My throat grew drier. The crowd thinned and grew again as flights came and went, but no one came for me. A young couple sat beside me for a while, their laughter like a knife twisting in my chest. I wanted to speak, to ask for help, but the words stuck. How do you tell strangers that your own son has abandoned you? What if they didn't believe me? What if they thought I was just some old woman confused and senile? The shame kept me silent. When hunger gnawed at me, I reached into my bag and found only a few coins rattling in the bottom. Not enough for a sandwich, barely enough for a small bottle of water. I bought it anyway, sipping it slowly, pretending it was enough to quiet the ache in my stomach. By evening, exhaustion set in. My body ached from sitting, my eyes burned from holding back tears. The airport lights were harsh, unyielding. Announcements echoed overhead, boarding calls for destinations I could only dream of. I felt like a ghost haunting the terminal, invisible to everyone passing by. And then the fear hit me harder. Where will I sleep tonight? I glanced at the clock, close to midnight. The shops were closing, the chatter quieter now. People still moved with purpose, dragging suitcases toward gates and taxis, but I had no purpose left, no destination, no one waiting for me. So I curled up on the corner of a bench, pulling my scarf tight, trying to make myself small. My heart thudded painfully with every sound. Footsteps, laughter, the whir of cleaning machines. I kept imagining his face, my son's face, looking back at me one last time. But there had been no look, no hesitation, just abandonment. And as I lay there in that too bright, too crowded, yet impossibly lonely place, one thought consumed me. How could my own flesh and blood decide I was disposable? The night at the airport was long and merciless. I hardly slept, my body stiff from the hard bench, and my mind racing in endless circles. Every sound startled me awake, the screech of rolling suitcases, the distant announcement of another departing flight, the laughter of strangers reuniting with loved ones. Each one was a reminder of what I had lost. By morning, my throat was parched, and my stomach twisted with hunger. I hadn't eaten properly since the day before. The few coins I had were already gone. My son's phone went straight to voicemail, and his wife's did too. Each failed call deepened the pit inside my chest. I told myself I needed to be brave. I needed to ask for help. So, with trembling steps, I approached the information desk. The woman there smiled politely at first, but her eyes quickly darted past me as I explained my situation. My son and his wife, they left me here, I whispered, my voice barely audible. I don't have money for a ticket. I don't know what to do. Her smile faltered, replaced by the expression of someone who wanted the problem to disappear. I'm sorry, ma'am. That's not something we can help with. Maybe you should contact the police. The police. The word struck me like a slap. To involve them would mean making this humiliation official, turning my private heartbreak into public record. I shook my head quickly. No police, I murmured. The woman nodded curtly, already turning her attention to the next person in line. I stood there for a moment, my face burning, before shuffling away. I tried approaching another staff member, this time a young man cleaning the floors. He listened politely, but his answer was the same. I'm sorry, ma'am. There's nothing I can do. His eyes were kind, but his words were useless. Each rejection was a fresh wound. By midday, desperation drove me to ask strangers, a woman walking past with her teenage daughter, a businessman in a suit glancing at his watch, a pair of elderly tourists. Excuse me, I said softly. Could you please help me? My family left me here. I have nothing. But their reactions were almost always the same. Avoidance, eyes flicking away, polite apologies. Some simply walked faster, as though I hadn't spoken at all. The shame was unbearable. I had lived my life with dignity, raised my son with love, survived hardship, and here I was, reduced to begging like a child. My hands shook as I pressed them against my chest, whispering to myself, "Don't cry, don't let them see you break." I found another bench near the large windows overlooking the runway. I sat there, staring out at planes rising into the sky, each one carrying people to new beginnings, reunions, adventures. I imagined myself on one of them, holding a ticket, holding a place in someone's heart. But all I had was silence. The hours dragged on. Hunger gnawed at me until my body felt weak. I sipped water from a public fountain, too embarrassed to ask for more. My legs ached, my back throbbed, but worst of all was the hollowness inside me. I thought of my husband again. How, whenever life became too heavy, he would sit beside me, take my hand, and tell me, "We'll get through this together." But there was no hand now, no voice, only the memory, fading and fragile. As the sun set again, I realized I had spent nearly 24 hours in that airport, invisible to everyone, unwanted, even by the people I had loved most. And for the first time in my life, I felt not just abandoned, but discarded. The second night at the airport was worse than the first. My body was weary, but my mind refused to rest. I sat slumped on a bench near a closed cafe, the smell of stale coffee lingering in the air. My scarf was wrapped tight around me, but it couldn't shield me from the cold that came not from the air, but from within, the cold of betrayal. At some point in the early hours, I broke. The tears I had been holding back spilled freely, streaming down my cheeks. I pressed my hands to my face, ashamed, but I couldn't stop. The sobs shook my body until my chest hurt. I thought of my husband then, more vividly than I had in months. I saw his face, kind and steady, the way his eyes softened whenever I worried. I remembered the nights when storms rattled our small home, how he would light a candle, hold my hand, and whisper, "Don't be afraid, we're together." I remembered the long walks we used to take, his steady steps beside mine, his laughter echoing in the air. I remembered the day we buried him, the silence of the earth swallowing him whole, and the promise I made to myself that I would lean on our son when the loneliness became too heavy. And now, here I was, alone, betrayed, discarded. The contrast tore at me. How could the same blood that once held my tiny hand in his, guiding me through his first steps, now leave me like this? How could the boy I nursed through fevers, the child I comforted after nightmares, grow into a man capable of abandoning his mother without a shred of mercy? My chest ached, not just from hunger and exhaustion, but from the crushing weight of a truth I couldn't ignore. Love is not always returned. Sacrifice does not guarantee gratitude, and sometimes the very people you would die for are the ones who leave you behind. I want to pause here and speak directly to you, the one listening to my story right now. If you feel something in your chest, if you've ever known the sting of betrayal or the loneliness of being unseen, please write in the comments. Tell me what you feel as you hear this, because in that airport, I felt like I didn't exist anymore. And maybe, just maybe, your words can make me, and others like me, feel less invisible. The night dragged on, my sobs eventually quieting into silent tears. Around me, life went on as if I were invisible. A group of young travelers laughed as they sprawled on the floor nearby. A mother kissed her sleeping child's forehead. A man tapped on his laptop, headphones in, eyes locked on his glowing screen. Not one of them looked at me. Not one of them saw me. I pulled the rosary beads from my bag, clutching them tightly, whispering prayers under my breath. I begged God for strength, for guidance, for a reason to hold on. My voice shook as I murmured, "Please don't let me die here like this. Please give me a way forward." But heaven was silent. Only the hum of the airport answered me. And yet, somehow, I endured. The night passed. My body ached, my eyes burned, but I endured. Because what else was there to do? As the first pale light of dawn filtered through the high glass windows, I told myself I would survive this day too. I had no choice. But I had no idea that the morning ahead would bring something I could never forget. The hours of that night stretched endlessly, each minute a reminder of how far I had fallen. The airport, once a place of movement and hope, had become my prison. I was no longer a traveler, no longer a mother waiting for her family. I was just an old woman sitting alone on a bench, invisible to everyone who passed me by. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting everything in a pale, lifeless glow. I wrapped my scarf tighter around my shoulders, but it did little to ease the chill that seeped into my bones. My body ached from sitting upright for so long, my legs stiff and swollen. The hard bench felt like stone beneath me, each hour carving deeper into my back. I watched the cleaning crews move silently through the halls, their machines humming as they polished floors to a shine. None of them looked at me. To them, I was just another part of the background, like a discarded bag someone had forgotten. For the first time in my life, I understood what it meant to be homeless, to have no place where you belong, to exist in a space where no one sees you, no one cares if you're hungry, no one wonders where you will sleep. The thought broke me. I had lived an entire life, raised a family, cared for a husband, built a home. And now I was reduced to this, a nameless face slumped on a bench, clinging to a handbag as though it were the last proof I existed. I tried to pray again, but even my words faltered. My throat was dry, my lips cracked. The rosary beads slipped through my fingers, as if even faith was abandoning me. At some point, exhaustion pulled me into a restless sleep. My dreams were cruel, a mix of memory and fear. I saw my husband reaching for me, only for his face to blur into my son's, who turned and walked away without a word. I jolted awake with a cry, my heart pounding, tears staining my cheeks. The sky outside the tall windows was turning pale, streaks of orange cutting through the dark. Morning, a new day. But for me, it felt like the same nightmare repeating itself. My stomach growled, louder now, a painful reminder that I hadn't eaten properly in days. I pressed my hands against it, ashamed of the sound, as though hunger itself were another humiliation. Passengers began to fill the terminal again, fresh faces full of excitement, families reuniting with hugs and laughter. I sat still, watching them, my heart heavy with envy. Every embrace I saw reminded me of the one I would never have again. Every smile was salt in the wound of my loneliness. I wondered if anyone could see the truth in my eyes, that I had been discarded, left here like luggage no one wanted to claim. But people hurried past, focused on their own journeys, their own destinations. None of them noticed the broken woman sitting quietly in the corner. And then, just as I lowered my head, something happened. A shadow fell across me. A stranger's voice, soft but firm, broke through the haze of my despair. "Mom, are you all right?" For the first time in 2 days, someone had seen me. Someone had stopped. I looked up, my vision blurred with tears, my lips trembling as I tried to speak. And in that moment, I realized my story was about to take a turn I could never have expected.